Oh yeah, okay.
Go ahead. Okay, Grace, go ahead.
All right. A while back I received a question about the history of the Archdiocese of Grouard-McLennan. The person who asked the question is especially interested in the era when we had the most active churches and the greatest number of Catholics. That's quite a history, which really is largely unknown. Ever since becoming Archbishop, I've had a dream of someone writing and publishing our history. I think it would be quite fascinating. It would provide a window on the state of Northwest Alberta and its changing fortunes over the years. Let me try to give a thumbnail sketch of our history and development. Bear in mind, of course, how all of Western Canada developed over the years. We must recognize, of course, that before the arrival of European fur traders, the indigenous peoples alone populated this territory. These were mostly Beaver, Dene, and Cree peoples. As years went on, more European settlers settled in the west and northwest. Mostly French-speaking settlers married into indigenous families, creating what we now know as the Métis people. In 1844, the first Oblate missionary priests arrived in the Canadian Northwest. In that same year, the Vicariate of the Northwest was established in St. Boniface and covered all of the Canadian North and West. From that time, mostly Oblate missionary priests labored in what eventually became our Archdiocese. As the Northwest developed in many ways, the Catholic Church structures grew in tandem. In 1862, the Vicariate of Athabasca-Mackenzie was erected, covering what is now our diocese and the Diocese of Mackenzie-Fort Smith. In 1901, the Vicariate of Athabasca was created and later named the Vicariate of Grouard, named after its famous and popular first bishop, Émile Grouard. In that year, 1901, the site of what is now the town of Grouard was chosen as the seat of this vicariate. This port on Lesser Slave Lake was a significant port at a time when most travel was by water. When railroads were built through the area and transportation by water gave way to rail, Grouard was abandoned. Bishop Hubert Langlois moved the seat of the diocese to McLennan in 1942, where he built a new chancery office and cathedral. In Canada's centennial year, 1967, the Vatican gave Canada a gift by making all the remaining vicariates into dioceses. Grouard-McLennan became an archdiocese with 2 suffragan dioceses, Mackenzie-Fort Smith in the Northwest Territories and Whitehorse in the Yukon. It's difficult today to imagine what life was like in the earliest days of the region. There were few roads to speak of, only paths and trails through the forest. Missionaries lived a very rugged life as they tried to bring the sacraments to families and small communities far from one another. Bishop Grouard wrote his memoirs on the 60th anniversary of his first coming to this region. The accounts of walking several weeks to meet a few families or an isolated community in order to bring them baptism, Mass, and the other sacraments tell the tale of dedicated priests who literally offered their life and livelihood for the spiritual good of their small flocks. Treaty 8, which covers all of our archdiocese, was signed in June 1899. One result of treaty was that indigenous communities settled onto reserves. The Dominion Land Act of 1872 offered 1/4 section of land to farming families from around North America and Europe. The family would register the land for $10, move on to the 1/4 section, and begin to cultivate it. This began the rapid growth of non-Indigenous communities in the region. From the statistics available to me, I have put together the following numbers to answer the question of the person who asks this question. The numbers don't say it all, obviously. When we speak of the growth of our region of Canada, there is much that has happened over the decades, and our diocese is still feeling the impact of demographic changes generally across Canada. So these are the numbers that I have available to me. They only begin in 1950. In that year, 1950, the total population of the region of our diocese was estimated to be 50,000, of whom a little more than 24,000 were Catholics, meaning 49% of the people were Catholic. We then had 70 priests, 222 religious sisters, and 35 parishes. In 1968, just after we became the Archdiocese, the total population was 88,344. 37% were Catholic. We had 64 priests, 205 religious sisters, and 39 parishes. In 2022, this is according to the most recent Catholic directory, the total population of our region is 174,000, of whom 67,000 or 38% are Catholic. We have 32 priests, 2 religious sisters, and 22 parishes. Those are the statistics that tell a bit of the story, but doesn't, as I say, answer all the questions one might have about the growth or the diminishment of communities. That is true of what is happening in the rural demographics of much of Canada today. Thank you for joining us. Keep your questions coming in. We'll see you the next time. Bye now.